This is going to be about dream and meditative phosphene experiences, what could otherwise be known as your internal pineal microscopic technology. The reason I call it a technology is because for whatever reason it is a function of our anatomy that we are capable of using or experiencing or tapping into. If you focus on your vision as you're falling asleep, you'll notice a lot of phosphene activity. And from what I've found, that's usually an indication that you're going to have a lot of dreams. Whether or not you're able to remember those or not in the morning is a different story. Another way of noticing these phosphenes is right when you wake up, especially if you've just had a dream, you close your eyes and focus on your vision, you'll see the kind of skeleton of a dream in your eyes. There'll be a lot of movement, shapes, characters, possibly even events still playing out. And if you fall back asleep at that point, you'll probably dream again. So I've had insomnia forever, and I've spent years and years studying my body and dreams and the different stages leading up to sleep. But rather than wasting my time trying to sleep, for a while I spent that time learning how to meditate. When I talk about meditation, I'm not talking about this like corporate mindfulness stuff. I'm talking about the actual deep meditative states, the ones you'll hear about with like monks or ascetics. The ones related to out-of-body experiences or astral projection and enlightenment and those kinds of trippy shamanic sort of experiences. I made a video on that kind of meditation a couple of years ago, and this was before I knew about phosphenes and entoptic vision. The way I described it was essentially your consciousness felt like it was shrinking onto this microscopic level, and so everything felt huge even though it seemed like you were getting smaller inside of your own mind. One of the things I've noticed is that there's this state of your brain that changes when you're getting ready for sleep. I'm assuming it's related to the release of melatonin or just some brainwave state that starts to change in preparation for sleep. So if you're able to stay awake during those different stages of sleep, you'll notice that there's activity in your mind and in your visual system that picks up when you're about to fall asleep. I don't know how much this is believed or accepted in Western philosophy, but in the East, you can have something called conscious sleep that's not in the REM cycle. Being conscious in REM cycle usually leads to lucid dreams, but you can be conscious in non-REM sleep. It is a very strange experience. It's hard to describe. It's very trippy, but in like a very calm and peaceful way. So it is possible to observe yourself falling asleep and remain conscious through those early sleep states and even later into deeper sleep. So the pineal gland, or the third eye, does have some components of an actual eyeball. It just doesn't have any visual systems attached to it, but it is sensitive to light. And it's the light that your eyes pick up that tells your pineal gland to stop making melatonin, or when it's dark out, to start making melatonin. Melatonin is one of the most important chemicals for keeping your body healthy, as well as kind of reducing the effects of the aging process. But it's that pineal gland that was seen by many different ancient cultures to be this gateway into the spiritual realm. In my experience and what I've researched, the spiritual world is essentially the microscopic. There's just a lot more to the microscopic than we fully understand. In the same way that I refer to something like meditation and dreams as a technology of the body, I'll use a term like the internet to describe some sort of microscopic data sharing network. Information can be coded into chemicals, into light, into electromagnetism, and all of those things can transfer from one microorganism to the other and from them to the body. That's why one of the things I've noticed is that what you eat, especially right before you go to sleep, will affect your dreams. And since your microbiome is capable of communicating with your CNS, and your CNS will contribute to what's happening with your phosphenes and whatever experience ultimately constitute dreams, they're able to send information, receive information, and so it's a very active period of the holobiont. But that was some of the stuff I was trying to communicate with the internet microbiome video that I probably didn't say very well. This topic is so hard to get into, it's so hard to explain. I've made probably 50 videos on this, and one of those videos is 2 hours long. But to get back to meditation and like out-of-body experiences or astral projection, I don't think you're actually leaving your body. I think you may be getting some extrasensory phenomena, but it's essentially like your AI generating your reality within your own mind. One that allows you to move around. And this doesn't necessarily mean it's not a legitimate experience, but there may be subtle things about that experience that don't actually line up with the real world. But again, this doesn't mean you aren't learning or experiencing with things that are still true of the real world. What I'm trying to say with like the out-of-body experience and meditation is you could be downloading all of this information, and this is going to feed into the kind of experience that you have. But I think this is why you have things like feng shui in the East and geomancy in the West, which is about manipulating your environment to allow for the best flow of information and energy. Because it's all this sort of morphogenetic internet that's going on with microorganisms and from microorganisms to us. The best way to understand any of this is to just experience it yourself. So I'm going to share a technique. Rather than dedicating your whole life as a monk or an ascetic, there's a way to get into these meditative states much easier. So this is the technique, the shortcut for the pineal microscope. I'll explain it real quick, but let me get out of the way so you can screenshot it or write it down if you want to. So what you'll do is, when you have a free morning, set your alarm about 2 hours before you would normally wake up. So if it's at like 7, you wake up at 5. You're just going to spend 5 to 10 minutes waking up. Read, drink some water, journal, prepare yourself for the technique, refresh your memory on anything you want to do or the experience you're about to have, anything like that. Just don't wake yourself up too much, because you're going to go back to bed after setting 5 alarms that will each go off every 20 minutes, or I should say in 20-minute intervals. You're basically going to surf in and out of consciousness. Your body's going to keep wanting to fall asleep, and you're going to try to maintain your consciousness to get into the meditative trance or the meditative state. You can use it for lucid dreaming, you can use it for out-of-body experience, you can use it just to get into the deep state of meditation and just feel what that's like. The benefit of this is you get 4 to 5 attempts of it before you either fall asleep completely or you wake up. That state your body will naturally be in is pretty much the same as any deep meditative experience that you'll hear about from different monks or ascetics or ancient practices of it. Obviously, there's something to be said about learning it the old-fashioned way through fasting and sitting in nature and meditating under a tree and all that kind of stuff. But most people don't have time for a lifelong commitment to that, and those experiences are worth having, and this is probably the best way to do it. I recommend everyone try these type of experiences because these are something that are fundamental or intrinsic to our anatomy, these technologies that we're capable of experiencing. But don't let what I believe influence what you think of the experience. That's just what I think the experience is and what I think is going on. And maybe if you have this, you'll think it's something different, or maybe you'll agree with me, I don't know. It's worth exploring though. I think the chemicals, the microbes, the electrical neurons, the phosphenes, right? They all have information, they all carry information, and they're all living, it's all animistic, and so all of this is going on into the experience. I lost my train of thought at the end there. This video is already longer than I intended it to be, so thanks for watching.